Join us on this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. We're back. We're back in studio, guys.
Woo!
Hey, hooray. Today we've got Kingsville CAO John Norton with us today, talking about policies, procedures, performance, and other things Kingsville. Stay tuned. We want to thank Kingsville Brewery for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Don't get caught empty-handed. The NHL, NFL, and NBA seasons are in full swing. Ensure your fridge is stocked with Kingsville for game day. Leave the work to us. Order online, and we'll deliver right to your doorstep. It's stout season at Kingsville Brewery. All month long, a portion of the proceeds from our hashtag Stout Season branded merchandise will go towards helping research at Windsor Cancer Center Foundation. We'll also be donating $5 from the sale of each case of our barrel-aged stout. Order yours today and help support a great cause in our community. And make sure you visit the Tap House and their new menu. Visit www.kingsvillebrewery.com. Thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Welcome to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Hunt. With me, Kevin Black, Steve Ianson, and special guest this week, CAO for the Town of Kingsville, Mr. John Norton. Thanks for joining us, John.
It is great to be here, gentlemen.
Exciting times. We're back. I know, John, we were on a hiatus for a few weeks, and, we had a couple of things, family things that we needed to get done.
Oh, we can say what it was.
We can.
Yeah, my daughter had a runny nose.
Yeah.
And then that just completely derails all plans.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah, completely. And it always happens at the 11th hour, right?
Exactly. So we were lucky. She was COVID free.
Yeah.
So, but it upended a few days of our lives.
Yeah.
For sure. Days of our lives.
These are the days of our lives.
John had to reschedule. Thank you for accommodating said COVID testing,
It
whatnot.
was good. It was good.
I've had a couple over the past 2 years, and it's like, hey, the school, your child has got a mild fever, and then rush the ambulance in, get all her COVID tested, and it's like, no, she's just a kid.
You're good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
It gave me time to get on with my Movember
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah,
I like it.
I've seen you in a little while. You got it's full on.
Well,
We're in
it
what?
is. We're going full on. We're trying anyway.
You didn't-
I was duly made fun of yesterday at the office, and then at our first.
And now they're out of a job.
No, we had a good time yesterday. It was good.
Is this full 9 days in? Like this is a
Yeah,
full
this is
9.
full.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
Is that 9 too?
It's 9.
Oh my god, Kevin, can you grow like that?
No.
No. Oh man.
Actually, I shaved yesterday.
Yeah, you're full blown. I can't. I couldn't do it, and it would just look horrible. Like I don't think I could ever rock a mustache.
No.
For any length of time.
Well, I look silly. So
Yeah,
at least, but this isn't on TV or anything, right?
Oh,
yes.
100%. This is on
don't
YouTube.
worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that giant camera over
Yeah.
there. It's
Oh.
okay.
Don't worry. It's not like anyone.
We don't like to.
Nobody can see me.
Yeah, we don't like to warn people before they come in. It's in the middle of it. They're like, "Oh yeah, what's that over my shoulder?"
It's like CTV News just bought the rights to That Kingsville Podcast, and they're
Yeah.
aired in prime time now. What?
Live.
What? Because there's nothing else happening.
We're actually doing first intermission at the for a hockey night in Canada. Now. Just check us out.
I don't know the new song for Hockey Night. I still don't.
Well, that is still technically the.
Hockey Night in
Well,
Canada.
everyone-
Well, it's
knows it
called
as
that.
that. Yeah.
Like the composition is called that, but
Yes.
TSN owns it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Big company.
Rogers came in and.
Snapped. Anyway, John Norton here from the Town of Kingsville. You've been here for what, a year and 4 months now?
Yeah, something like that.
John, how
Has it been that long?
It has.
You
Because-
believe it?
No.
September of last year.
September of
So
last
it's been, a year and 2 or 3
3 months, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your history, your background, and how you came to Kingsville, and introduce yourself basically to all our listeners.
Well, thank you. So don't hold it against me, but I'm a lawyer by training. So I practiced law for about 10 years. And then I saw the light and got away from that as fast as I could. I decided to, work for one of my clients and went to Chatham, Kent, where I worked for about 10 years and just loved public sector work. And then came here last September. So it's really been a transition, but a fantastic one. I'm just loving Kingsville. My wife and I bought a house here. We are enjoying the restaurants,
All
breweries,
It's all in.
fine dining, museum, art gallery. It's the lake is
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
And what was that exact address again?
Yeah, coming from the middle of a county and not having any immediate bodies of water, this must be like living at the beach almost. Of sorts.
absolutely, yeah.
So you came by the way of Chatham, background lawyer, economic development, and things
Yes.
like that in Chatham, Kent.
Yeah, so in Chatham, Kent, went there as legal counsel in 2011 and transitioned into what they call there a general manager role, what we would call here a director role over community development, which included economic development, planning, building, fire department.
and then into Kingsville, thrown in the throes of COVID.
And then I got to come here and work, and
Yeah.
it's been pretty exciting. It really is a dream job, guys. Let me tell you, it's fun.
Well, it's why we've developed a whole podcast about the town. We're a little bit passionate about
There you go.
Kingsville too.
And I love that. I can't say that I expected a town like this size to have such a tremendous podcast and following.
Oh,
So good
no.
for you
I
guys.
haven't heard that one.
It's
Where can I
wonderful.
find that one?
Working-
Oh, us. Oh,
Oh,
that's great.
our 7 listeners really do love
I
us,
do.
so
You
it's
You know what?
great.
My mom tells me every time. It's like, David, you were talking too loud last episode. So, what is some of the things immediately that you and your administration have kind of tackled? Right, town in flux, town in COVID. So, what were some of the first things that coming to Kingsville as an outsider, you identified? Hey, these are some things that we should tackle.
Yeah. So I arrived, as I said, a year ago, September. I didn't know anybody and I didn't know council. So obviously you spend the first 100 days through to maybe Christmas just meeting people, getting to know the town, attending events, attending meetings. So went through the first budget last January. Again, a very strange process because everything during COVID was done by, Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So I went months and months before I even met staff or council members, right? So it was in person, I mean.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
So
yeah.
you get to know people in this little box on a screen. So very, very strange.
You get to see me now.
Now I
Right?
get to see you in person.
Yeah.
And
I met you once before this
and
too.
now this is live. It's
Yeah.
amazing, real people. So that so then what I said to council was, hey, you're halfway through your first term. At that point, they were, about 2 years out to the next election. So is now a good time to check in and say, let's do sort of a look at what your goals and priorities are. What do you want to accomplish during this term?
Yep.
And you've got a new CAO, so it helps me get some direction as well on what you want to accomplish. So after the budget last February, we had that strategic meeting, and council identified. We came up with a list of a whole ton of ideas. Remember, we had some public engagement. We had several hundred ideas.
That was like episode 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went through. We did a draft.
Right.
A
I think I
mock
listened
draft.
to it. Yeah, and then it got whittled down to about 50, and then council voted on those 50, or I forget how many, about 50. They got it down to 15. So now we have what we call, council's 15 priorities. There's actually 16 because they set aside COVID as sort of the number one overarching priority. So 15, but really 16. And those kind of became the marching orders for us as staff on what council wants to accomplish. So we're coming up now closer to the 1 year mark since they created those priorities. So we're going to be bringing a report to council soon, outlining sort of what we've been working on, what council's been working on. And these are council's priorities, council's objectives, and where council's at with it. And then that will push us off into this final year of their term. And hopefully we'll accomplish as much as we can before they all come to a screeching halt at the end of their term and we have an election.
We got some new faces at the in administrative roles too in the town. Karen Loney, Richard Wyma, Sue Hirota.
Yes.
Yeah, so you've got some new fresh faces, some new ideas, some new opinions in town. How's that working out?
It's fantastic. I think we've hired some great new staff. We've got some great existing staff. I'm really pumped about the team we've got. We one of the things I sort of brought together was a senior management team. So we've got we also have a new fire chief, right? So we'll get John Quinnell there in fire and rescue. We've got, as you say, Richard Wyma. He's taken over a great department, leading building, planning, and Parks and Rec. And special events, tourism. So he's kind of running with all of that, and he's bringing forward a report. I think you'll see a report come to council before the end of the year on the Main Street development recommendations. So that'll give you guys something to talk about, right?
Let's see if you use my ideas.
So there you go. So that's exciting. So he's got that portfolio. We got Andrew Planky leading, infrastructure and engineering.
Yep.
Ryan McLeod.
We don't need to talk about.
We don't need to talk about Ryan. Okay. Yeah.
No.
He's already beloved.
He is, exactly. We don't need
don't
any
need
more
to-
love for Ryan.
No.
Sorry, Ryan.
There you go. Sorry, Ryan. and then Susan. Yeah. You mentioned Susan. Great hire out of City of Windsor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the idea of the town in transition out of Kingsville, some new faces, some new ideas, some new things happening in town. I'm glad that programming like Open Streets Kingsville is one of the events that was supported by council and actually became a town sponsored event. So, things like that, as your administration are continuing to grow, we're adding things as a resource for Kingsville or as an opportunity and a venue and an event. So are there more plans in order for the town's municipal management to handle things like that, to offer more programming for the town? I am just stumbling over my stuff today.
What was that?
You gonna do more stuff, John?
We're gonna do more stuff.
How about things?
You
We're
take
gonna
over.
do some
I can't
things.
talk.
Once they get through the items, they'll get to the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me say this. It's not my administration, so let's be clear. It's council's in charge, right? I don't want to.
I don't give them any more credit than they
Well,
got
but,
enough.
but I honestly want to say that because I think you got a great council. You got a good group of staff, as you just outlined, but we got a council that's identified some great priorities. And I've got the list here of their 15 priorities we were just talking about. And they identified, number 4, programming increase. And as you say, another, COVID economic recovery, which is, goes along, I think, a little bit with what we were trying to do at Open Streets. It was not only a social event for people to come to, but it was about kicking off the economy, especially on Main Street. So, yeah, we see all of that carrying on and continuing. And I hope you've seen, we got communications going like we didn't have before. So I think there's more coming to the town in terms of by way of social media or our website and more announcements about events that are happening. We had a great turnout at the Migration Festival, and we're really excited about the Santa Claus parades. So lots of good things.
We'll get to the Santa Claus parade.
You want me to hold off? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Any other quick wins that you think you've seen from the priorities so far?
Oh man, we've been busy. So
Right, I know, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You hire staff, and even the new managers, it takes some time to get up to speed too.
for
So
sure.
you can't expect a whole lot very quickly. But I know that there was a few things on there that Mayor Santos had said that maybe, hopefully be able to start knocking a few off before the end of the term at least, right?
For sure. So I would say, for example, greenhouse. When I arrived a year ago, council said right away, we want a bylaw. We want to deal with the greenhouse lighting. I think that's, we brought in the bylaw. We've worked with the greenhouse owners, and I think we've seen a significant reduction in the bright skies that were out there last winter. So we're hoping that'll continue. We're out doing enforcement, and we're largely getting compliance. So that's been a great win. Other wins would include, communications was a priority of council. Just mentioned that as a big win. We did a review, some internal stuff that probably people in the town think, sounds kind of boring or not that important, but we did a review on committees and boards. That's been completed. We did a new procedural bylaw. So we've done some of those internal housekeeping things that need to be done to help council move forward. And that set us up nicely. We just had our first meeting last night as a new hybrid format, right? So last night was the first time we had council in a room together. And we did the council meeting that way instead of by Zoom. So
It's fun. I'm glad you brought that up because I had a really inane, weird procedural question for you, and you'll have to excuse me because I get hung up on procedure. It's kind of my weird quirk.
It's what wakes them up in the morning.
I actually was driving by town hall last night and I saw all the cars. I'm like, oh yeah, council, because I knew that you guys were doing the hybrid. So, here's a question. So the public is entitled to be able to attend a council meeting, which is one of the reasons why streaming is there, why Zoom is a possibility. And previously to this, before the hybrid, if Zoom wasn't working, you weren't having a council meeting because Zoom would stop and you couldn't meet any longer.
Right.
So if your video feed goes down during council, do you have to stop the council meeting?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think we actually really have not contemplated that, except to say that we've had a couple of glitches where the video feed has gone down and we've stopped the council meeting. So in practice, that's what we're doing. I don't know if you're asking me whether...
I'm wondering, procedurally, is that a requirement? Because you're no longer providing public access to a council meeting where they could be voting on items that shouldn't be voted on in camera, but the public doesn't have access to that vote.
Yeah, I think for sure we would have to stop the council meeting. I mean, we're in this unusual time right now of COVID where we're doing hybrid in the sense that we're not allowing the public, as you say, into the council chambers, but we're going to hope to transition out of that quickly because, I think long-term people, I think in the short term, people understand it because of COVID, but as COVID hopefully recedes, people won't want that and that wouldn't be appropriate. So what we envision actually is continuing a hybrid type of a council meeting, but where we're going to allow the public into the council chambers, but we're going to still allow people also, for accessibility reasons, to still watch the meeting online and even participate online. So if you think of in the past, if you had an inability to travel to town hall, you couldn't speak to a matter. You had to physically be there. Now we're going to let people continue to participate by Zoom. So we're trying to set up a process that isn't temporary, but will become permanent.
That's a great idea.
To allow people to continue to participate. The other factor is we're going to allow counselors to participate remotely. If you think of in the past, if a counselor couldn't physically attend a council meeting and they missed a vote that was very important, that could make a big difference right in the town. And we lose that representation there. They're sort of democratically elected official, not able to participate in a vote. So this way, if say they have a cold, they have to stay at home, or they're having surgery, they're having something that prevents them from coming in, now they'll still be able to Zoom in and participate and vote. So,
not that they're on the beach in Boca Raton or anything like that, and, having a nice margarita or whatever, and making
just at council at the swim up bar.
Yeah. It's not meant for that.
It's not meant for that.
At the end of the day, too, that's going to just increase the engagement from the public. You've got to think there's a lot of people who knowingly can sit at home now and tune in. Will.
Yeah, exactly. And the benefit of having both digital record and physical record means that you may spur on more of the details of the issue because of that ability to represent remotely. So if I wasn't able to attend but had points that were pertinent to it, I still have the opportunity if I so choose. So, I think there's been many council meetings we've had where it's been no access to the building because of the amount of people that want representation over an issue. So, yeah, we got a hybrid model. Now, even if I'm limited by the facility, I can still have the opportunity to be a part of whatever the proceedings are.
It's always mayhem when that council chamber is just jammed to the back and down the hall and in the parking lot, and there's people on cell phones like trying to live stream. It used to be a mayhem, absolute mayhem. One of the council priorities you mentioned was COVID. The COVID, kind of getting out of COVID. Some of the different ways. And I forget the exact name of the fund, but the COVID emergency fund. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that went to committee of the whole this a while ago now because we got delayed because of COVID-ish. But we did want to kind of break down that report because there was some interesting things in there. I think some people would have been surprised at some of the items that were included in there. So we did want to kind of go through a couple of things. One of the ones that I was kind of interested in was the 100,000. Well, first, before we get into the specifics, what is the COVID emergency fund? So where did the cash come from? And obviously, and I know you're going to say the province. Yeah. What were some of the restrictions that came along with that grant funding?
Right. So the money came from the province, and they doled out money sort of at the beginning and sort of halfway through COVID, the pandemic, to municipalities and I assume other public sector entities. But they handed out money to the municipalities to say, use this for operating costs and pressures. So you think about we actually have had a significant decrease in revenues, right? So, and some municipalities more than others. I mean, we don't have a public transit system. You imagine like a large city with a large public transit system. Suddenly everyone was at home. Nobody's riding the transit. That's a whole bunch of revenue that's gone. So we didn't have that, but we did have a loss of revenue from, say, the arena that was closed. Those kinds of user group type revenues.
Thank God Kingsville doesn't have a pool.
So the province, knowing that towns had to have, had expenses that can't easily be just turned off, provided some funding for that purpose. The second purpose they provided it for was for us to use for anything, COVID related in terms of expenses that we're incurring over and above our typical operating budget. So, but they left that pretty open-ended. So what we did in most municipalities is first recognize that money has to go towards, PPE, providing for, the plastic barriers in the town hall or in a facility, whatever you're doing, you're buying, suddenly you're buying masks or you're buying, sanitizer, all of that stuff. So all of those upfront costs, we use it for that. And then secondly, you sort of think of like secondary expenses. I mean, so council made, I think, a very wise decision and handed out some money to businesses and local groups. Remember there was a grant program made available. So small businesses received a small grant. Those kinds of things that sort of become secondary, or you think of as not a direct impact on the town, but certainly an impact on our residents and on our businesses. So that's what the money has largely been used for. We are sitting on still a large chunk of money, and what we're waiting for right now is for the amount that we're going to have to contribute toward running the mass vaccination centers. So each town was responsible for having a mass vaccination clinic, and it was decided in Essex County that they would just set them up in the county in Amherstburg and Leamington. So we agreed with those two towns to do a cost-sharing arrangement. So we're still waiting to find out what we're going to have to contribute towards that, and the county as well will contribute something. So we're hoping we're going to not have to, dig too deep on that, but obviously we have to pay our fair share for our residents. And then anything left over and above that is really what Ryan's report was addressing, to say, hey, what are we going to do with these additional funds? Let's put them towards some use, like helping to, get some facilities going again and things like that.
So for people who didn't see it, what were some of those? The list wasn't long because I don't want you just to have to read a whole report. But what were some of the key highlights that were on that list?
So so this only went to committee of the whole. So let me be clear, like no decisions have been made yet, right? So
and we'll touch on that.
Yeah. Okay. So what we had gone to committee of the whole to get their feedback on was, just outlining to them initially what we have spent money on in to date, and then what we would propose spending money on in 2022 related to direct expenses for, as we said, related to COVID, like masks or sanitizer. Also some offsets for lost arena revenue, facility revenue, things like that. Running we have to have people at the arena now, screening you when you come in with your vaccine passport. So all of those
and they're very nice.
Very nice.
Very good.
Very accommodating.
I'm happy to know
They're
that.
doing a great job.
Absolutely.
Everybody pretty much is.
So then we decided to,
Pretty broad.
You can't just say that. I mean, everyone's doing a
Yeah, everybody's doing a great job.
Everyone.
Yeah, that's
A car, you get a car.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
That's
great
non-committal.
job, society. I mean, if you read Facebook, you wouldn't think that,
no.
but
That's why you don't read Facebook or Meta. Or
Sorry, we
what's it
cut
called.
John off.
Sorry,
with my
John.
stupidity.
No, I am thrilled to know that you guys love our vaccine screeners at the arena.
Oh, they're great
That's
people.
Fantastic. It's nice to know.
yeah, they're doing. Hey, everyone's doing a great job. So what were some?
I know where you're pushing me. So then
Let's go. Let's go there.
Where we budgeted.
Let's get there.
That might be a little bit controversial. $50,000 for next year's open streets. $100,000 for additional office space, and $50,000 for facility improvements at the Grovedale. So that's what we're proposing. As I said, council hasn't made a decision yet.
So let's start at the top. So 50,000 for open streets again. Is that about the same as this year?
It was 25 for this year, but I don't think we've done the full assessment on overall costs yet.
Yeah, I that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. This is a little bit higher, but this gives us the opportunity maybe to expand it. We did get a great support this summer, for example, from some groups that didn't require funding from us, like Kingsville Music Society probably. They did receive a grant from us earlier in the year and showed up and provided all of that music that you saw at Open Streets, not knowing whether they would need more, are we going to need more funding or less for groups like that next year? I don't know. So we just, we're ballparking 50,000. Again, these are just round numbers and sort of preliminary,
And then
100,000 for office space.
So how's that work?
So here's where we're at with the office space. Separate and apart from anything related maybe to COVID, is just the fact that we are bursting at the seams at Town Hall. So, when I arrived, people were pretty jammed in, and since then, we've added some more staff. So it's another whole discussion about what we're doing with staff and why we're adding more. But our Town Hall is pretty much, from a space perspective, pretty jammed. We also don't have sanitary sewers up there, so we're on septic. So there's no way to build up. There's nowhere to go. So it's a bit of a problem for us. But I don't think building up or proposing to do some big renovation and spend millions of dollars on a new town hall makes any sense, especially when we've got a fair number of existing buildings that are sort of underutilized and they're not being fully maybe maxed out. So we've just had, we've sat around as a senior management team and thought, what are we going to do for the future? We need to come up with a plan that at least, gets us through the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe beyond that, there needs to be thinking, a decade out. Maybe the next CAO can think about whether they're going to build a new town hall. But for my 10 years, let's look at what can we do to get through this this time period. So what we're thinking is we're going to go to council, and you start thinking about, everyone knows what the buildings are in town, right? Mm-hmm. Where would we put staff? Could we put more staff at the arena? That's a possibility. Could we put some staff at the Unico? That's a possibility. There's the Grovedale. So you got these different buildings, and you got to figure out what's the best use for that building. Should we be putting staff in there? So that's basically what we're looking at is $100,000. Have council select where the staff would go, but wherever they go there's gonna be a cost for moving and a cost for some minor renovations to probably create some offices inside those buildings.
So it sounds like it's a pretty high level. So where did that number come from? Because it's a big number.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Well, $100,000 isn't that big when you start thinking about putting up walls and putting up some, if you even went into the, because remember what I'm thinking is, you think about a renovation either in the Unico or in the arena, for example, those are just examples. Putting up walls and creating offices in those spaces that weren't built for that's going to cost something. So I don't think $100,000 is really a big number. So where did the number come from? Frankly, it came from Ryan and I, saying, let's come up with a number, and 100,000, as you say, is a round number. Is it going to cost more? Is it going to cost less? We don't have an estimate or anything like that yet, because really council hasn't made a decision about whether they're going to support more office space. Mm-hmm. And if they do, where would that space be? Until we know where council will support it, the office space going, that's when you'd start getting estimates on pricing.
But this wouldn't be something that's temporary, and then when, quote unquote, COVID is over, then those people go back. You're looking at something that would be long-term, 5-10 years. Staff would be housed out of a different location, possibly.
Yeah. So, hopefully the province isn't listening to this broadcast, but this is supposed to be COVID, right? This is supposed to be COVID-related funding. So, we're maybe pushing the boundaries a bit on what the intention is for this use here. But what we were thinking, what we said to council was, we need more spacing because of social distancing requirements and things like that. So that's kind of how we can fit it into this category and use this grant for that purpose. Okay. But you're right. If we move staff in there, I don't see us going backwards in terms of having less staff in the future.
Sorry, Steve.
No, that's okay. It's still related to staffing, or are you?
Well, I was going to bring up the three of us, because we're also experts in managing the town. We were discussing some of the concerns with the OPP building and the likelihood that that's also going to be going to require replacement or some form of upgrades in the near future. It's the original town hall, and then really nothing has happened there in 30 years, Steve. I mean, it
was retrofitted when
it became the.
But what?
But
that's, amalgamation was about 25 years ago.
That's 25 years.
Yeah.
96.
So
95,
97, I think, was the start. Was it January 1st, 97 or 98? I'm not sure.
Could Google it.
So has there been any talks of possibly looking to, you're going to need a new police station at some point, probably sooner than the 5 to 10 years that you're talking about. Has there been any discussions around that? And maybe that's a solution for your office space problem.
Possibly. No, there hasn't been really a lot of discussion about that. You know that the OPP is talking about a merger of police boards across Essex County. So as that takes place, I think what we're waiting for is maybe for that to take place and then see whether they're going to look at reallocating or having office spaces in different parts of the county. So I'd hate for us to go and, spend some money on a renovation before we know, are they keeping the same level of, office staff in that building? I just don't know right now. I think we don't know. So we're waiting for that to happen. But I hear you. I think a lot of our buildings that are aging are certainly needing renovation. I mean, you think of the old school that we own up there in Covent, to go through that building where the library is, another building that's aging significantly. What are we going to do with it, right? I mean, so those are all sort of questions that administration are kind of grappling with, and then ultimately we have to figure out, how do we best use these spaces? We're spending money right now to heat them, right? So they're being heated, they're being maintained, and certainly during COVID, nothing was happening, and even before COVID, there wasn't sometimes a lot happening in them. So
sorry, Steve.
You did it again.
No, he didn't actually cut me off.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the staffing relocation if we can. And it doesn't necessarily tie to the COVID funding, but I know a few years ago before the renovations were done at the current town hall, the building department was in a separate building, same lot more or less. And then once they moved into the town hall, there was a lot of talk, just the cohesion was a lot better between different departments. It is a little bit different now because everything's so Wi-Fi and electronically connected, but how would you go about determining who leaves town hall? I mean, is it rock, paper, scissors? No.
Remember American
seriously,
Gladiators? Right? Remember? I propose American Gladiators.
There's probably some that say, no, please, I want to go to that building. And there's probably some that say, no, I want to stay. But is there a department that you could say, hey, you know what? It makes sense if you're here because you're closer to where you need
downtown
to be, so to speak, or is it simply hasn't really been thought about yet?
Well, I think those are great questions, and I think probably it makes sense for certain departments to stay together, right? I mean, and even you talk about the town hall where council comes and meets. Council meets in there. One option, for example, would be to not have council meet there. And that big space could become divided up. And you could, if we took over the council room, that would meet our needs probably for the next 5 years in terms of spacing. But then where do you put council?
Could we finally find a use for the Grovedale?
Well, so that's an idea. But let me tell you the challenge with that. The challenge with that is, there's a lot of technology actually in the room there in council chambers in terms of sound. And now that we've moved to this whole hybrid model where we're going to try and broadcast the meeting, it's not, as you guys can imagine, it's not something you want to pack up all of the electronics every week and make way for a wedding rental on the weekend and then set it all back up on the Monday night. So probably, having looked at it, I thought of that as well, and we kind of analyzed it. We've come to the conclusion, at least anyway as staff, it probably makes sense to keep council chambers where it is. So then as you're asking, where do we move the staff and who goes where? So, it's really about which ones should stick together. Probably planning and building should stick together and, have that, as one cohesive unit. And then could they move somewhere that might make sense, right? They could be over at the arena, and then we have to re-educate, or widely communicate that that's where you go now to get your building permits or whatever. So.
And I guess the part with council meetings is the town hall was kind of located there because upon amalgamation, Kingsville became that much bigger. So you've got people coming from the north and from Cottam. They're going to have to drive. I get it, but it's a little bit further. You've got to get through town. You've got to, you put the meetings at the Grovedale, and it's a lot further for a lot more people. Right now, it's
off
more
Main Street.
centrally.
It's off Main Street. It's fine. We don't have a problem on Division now that the road is reopened. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That was good, wasn't it? We got it that
3
real.
weeks.
Fantastic.
All right. So
Well, sorry, I was just going to say they used to have council meetings at the Unico.
Only because of the renovations.
Right.
Yeah, but there's no reason that it couldn't happen again.
or upstairs at the Grovedale, because that's a space that's just purpose built for
No,
meetings.
but I guess, since we're planning this for John,
Yeah.
you could move the meetings to
Unsolicited,
Cottam at
yeah.
times.
I'll tell you
Then-
what.
Then you're utilizing the building
right.
at Cottam.
We'll create a report. We'll submit it to you. You can bring it up at your next council meeting.
We'll give it to Tara.
We'll
and,
cost it out. Yeah.
No, we can't, because the committees are all disbanded. I can't now.
Hold on. We're getting there.
No, wait.
$50,000 to soundproof the Grovedale
Thank
is
you.
on that list.
Thank you, John.
John.
Yes.
John, is
What?
that not a brand new building?
Come on.
Not brand new. What happened?
What happened with what?
Why do we need $50,000 to soundproof a building we just built?
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell you what I think. So, in talking to performers who want to go in and perform there, they're saying to us the sound bounces around. So I'm not a sound expert, but we recently had a staff meeting in there. I will say it was actually hard, even with microphones, to hear what the person was saying, which was strange. So I guess the sound does bounce around. I'm not an expert. They're saying we need to do something like at least put up curtains that will help absorb the sound, stop the bouncing around. That obviously costs some money. I think we can maybe figure out, you can do it on the cheap or you can do it on the expensive. I know you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do sound mitigation, but this isn't a lot of money in the big scheme of things. And if it makes a difference of, getting in performances and concerts, and if that was the intention for the building, then I would say
He said it.
then I would say let's do it. But I understand that's a controversial thing when the building's been built, and all I know is that we're coming out of COVID, and I would think that the community wants to use this great asset that's been built. I know there's some criticism about it, but I think it's a beautiful facility, and let's get using it.
Now,
No, go ahead.
No, we're all ready to
we're
jump
all
on
there.
this one. This is one that's
It's a sore spot, right? Because again, all the controversy around the building. You weren't here. This is prior to you
prior
coming to
to-
town.
I-
So don't. It's not.
no, but
it's
one way
not
to
at
look
you.
at it is
Yeah,
simply
it's not accusatory,
it was one of the usages was for
Yeah.
weddings, and weddings you have a concert
right?
or a band or a DJ or something.
It was an events hall.
and there was talk about performers. So why, if you're gonna
In the original scope of build, was this not
use the building
accommodated for?
exactly?
Yeah,
So
and
this is where a lot of the
Yeah.
the chatter and the complaints and the concerns
well, and I think some of the concerns too is that none of
stuff.
stuff that none of the issues that have propped up with the building of that building weren't fully aware when the building was being built, and so some of the items like the decorative balcony or concerns over the amount of power that was initially in that building, or soundproofing, or I'm
Kitchens.
sure Gary could list a whole litany of things that someone that has some sound engineering background could see was going to be an issue just by looking at the plans, and those concerns had been raised during the building of the planning and building of the building. So I think a lot of the concerns that and criticism that's levied at that building is that there's a lot of people in town that feel like they have the opportunities to say "I told you so." And now it's going back and fixing what seems like problems, like it's Band-Aid solutions on problems that should have been dealt with. My question would be, you're going to spend $50,000 so that people can hear people better, but you don't have a stage. So how are people going to see them?
No, well, what we actually put in here was facility improvements to support live concert events. So we do see the need for a stage, and we would have tried to include it in that. I mean, again, it's $50,000
Yeah, that's
the
not
right
much.
number. It's not much, right? But all I'll say is that I think people somehow got to set aside what's happened in the past, and we've got to move forward. And I hear council wanting to be positive. The mayor and council are really driving forward, I think, with a positive agenda. And one of those great assets in our community to use now is this beautiful Grovedale building. So let's stop talking about the past. Let's look forward and let's figure out what to do with it. Either that, or we can propose. We've talked about this as staff, and I'm sure council's thought about this too, right? I mean, when I hear people say they don't want to spend a dime there, they don't. Some people say, well, let's even let it fail. I say, well, then let's at least list it for sale and get. I don't know what we'll get for it, but let's sell it to someone else then. Because if you don't want me to use it, then just pull it, at least stroke it off my list. So, the CAO is not responsible for making it successful, right? But I assume unless the town wants to come to an agreement on selling it, you want us, we own it. You want us to use it, so let's use it. And it's an incredible facility compared to the other facilities in town. You think about having some kind of concert at the arena or in one of the rooms at the arena or at the Unico. I mean, it's just not even... It's not the same at all, right? So we've got this beautiful brand new facility, and let's use it. And weddings are great, or private events that bring in some revenue, and obviously that's some use. But we don't want to be in competition with the private sector, so we're trying not. I don't want that to become like we're not trying to run we're not in business, right? We're not trying to run a business here and compete with private wedding venues. So what are we going to do with it? I think we should. My view would be to let's use it for as many different community groups that need access to this type of a facility, whoever they are. So
the migration hall.
So that again is another whole, got a history behind it that I understand that predates me. We're working with the school board around the migration hall itself, but we've also been working closely with the migration hall players and I know that they were also partially shut down during COVID, right? So they're trying to get up and going again, and they've actually been renting the old Cottam school from us, and they've been having some children's programs in there over the summer. So that seemed like a great use of that space.
My daughter. Anyway.
Your daughter was in there?
She's in there.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Did she enjoy it?
Of course. Absolutely.
Great.
So a lot of things did predate you. If there's a plan going forward for that facility, how public is that disposition going to be? How much does it have to go to a council vote, or is it a matter of once a budget line item is approved, is it just, well, there's 50 grand, knock yourself out?
Yeah,
because I think part of the problem is everybody now is overly concerned that, hey, we put another 50 in. You said it was going to do some stuff, right? It's unfair criticism in a way, but how much more?
Yeah. So those are good questions. I mean, I think the mandate right now is staff have been handed this building and we want to try and make use of it. So we don't have to go to council to do that. It's currently being used. People rent it. We have different events going on there. Sometimes they're public events. Sometimes they're private events. We also have, we obviously have a budget for maintaining the building. So we're spending money to keep it going. So, some of that budget could be used to help offset some of the sound mitigation, maybe. And maybe that's what we'll be looking at. But we were, this was not intended to create a big political controversy in town or anything. And this was not council pushing this. This was us as staff just saying, hey, we've got these COVID dollars. And this is an area where we've heard, especially from the key is that this is what the users are telling us. So it's not so much like staff are asking. I think it's a case of some of the...
Which leads me to the next
go
thing.
ahead.
We had thrown in 2017 when the building was first built. 2017?
No,
2017 was the first event. We and the Tourism and Economic Development Committee threw a regional conference of about 200 people. We had it at the recreation center upstairs. And at that time, we were anticipating the use of the Grovedale House. Unfortunately, due to programming and a negotiation with the town of Leamington, we had a modified second event. And I think that, the awareness that there's a facility of this size and scale and capacity can help aid the ability to say, yes, as an investment of this amount of money, it further extends the ability for this facility to be used in these avenues, right? Not in competition for the private sector, but hey, now we've got a 100 to 200 person conference center where we're bringing people in from outside of the region in order to facilitate them for a 1-2 day conference with a lovely brand new building that's fully accommodating any kind of food requirements or catering and restroom facilities. So, these are the things that, I'm hoping that as the building gets utilized for multiple different things, you're getting the feedback and hey, the kitchen, I've heard from a few restaurateurs, is just not quite adequate. So I'm sure that's going to come on the list next. But
the and speaking of the restaurant businesses. I'm a member of Eat Drink Dine Kingsville, my family businesses, and so I would probably not be able to show my face at another one of their meetings if I didn't ask about the staff person that they were eager to have included to manage some of the COVID business response and to help promote tourism. So I'll ask, what was the decision to not include a person to help kind of promote some of the local businesses in the town?
Well, you're asking me now to guess on why council makes decisions, and that's not really my role, right? So, that did come forward. I think we had a request from twice. We had a request from the business community to look at that, as you say, some of the restaurants in town. Mm-hmm. Those things came forward to council, but I would say, council has not said no to making those things happen. And what we've done is, I think, I don't know what was going on here before, but it seems to me now we're doing a ton to try to bring in tourists, whether it was Open Streets or Migration Festival or these things. They've kind of ramped up, and we've seen a great effort. Just recently, they had a beauty crawl, right, that we helped organize. So I think we're doing things, and I'm hearing good feedback from some of the businesses saying, hey, that actually, brought in some sales into our store, or the restaurants are busy during Open Streets. So it seems to me that we're targeting that and doing it. And, I'll work with the resources that council gives me. I think they've given us adequate resources right now to achieve all these things that we're achieving.
I have to come to John's side here. We did ask as an economic development committee on 2 separate occasions to facilitate using some of these funds, an individual for COVID recovery, tourism, and economic development. And council decided not to vote. That was a necessity.
And
go watch the minutes.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, council makes decisions and staff implements them, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Right.
Yes, they do. Council makes decisions, right. Council makes decisions, staff
implements
yes.
them. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But council again voted for, I just want to come to council's defense, right?
Okay.
I think the mayor and council are doing a great job. They identified as priorities economic recovery, for example. It was number 8 on their top 15 list of council priorities. So, the economic recovery of the town through COVID is a priority, and we're making it a priority. Like I said, I think we're doing some great things to help, whether it's our tourism and hospitality sector, or whether it's our manufacturing or those types of sectors as well. I think we're doing a lot. As Dave knows, who worked closely with me for some months on the Tourism and Economic Development Committee, and we've got plans to move ahead as we head into 2022 with new ways of engaging the community and getting feedback and how we can help businesses and support them.
Now that committee's gone. As one of the council priorities was the restructuring of committees. And I would assume that Dave's happy because many of his nights are now free.
Yeah, free time galore. I record podcasts on every night now. I went from 4 committees to none. Sad.
Why did you ever do that to
I
yourself?
don't know.
Maybe it wasn't.
Aren't you on like 5 committees?
Maybe Dave was the factor.
Yeah, it was. It was like, where's the common denominator? It's Dave.
So
his velvety smooth. We don't want to listen.
I was on 1.
Was it just 1?
Just 1.
You're not on that one anymore, right?
No.
So what? So why? Why was the decision made to trim down? It's important to note committees are not gone. There are still town committees. There are still advisory committees in different aspects and advising in different parts of the town. But there were a number of committees that were disbanded and then added into a larger committee of the whole. So let's start at the beginning. Why? Why was that something that seemed like it's or is a good idea?
So when I arrived, I did hear from some members of council, but also some members of committees, some committee members, and also some staff that we had too many committees. And there was some frustration on committees about their ability to get things done, effectiveness, mandate, roles and responsibilities. So we needed some clarity around all of that. Council identified that, and one of their priorities was to do a review of committees. So I kind of went away and began looking at it. I thought, well, I got fresh eyes. I'm here. Let's take a look at it. And what I heard was that we had 25 committees of council, and in addition, I think we have 8 related organizations that council members sit on, and that became quickly apparent as unwieldy in terms of the number, and also far more than our neighboring communities would have in terms of numbers of committees of council. So you end up in a situation where you've got committees become a burden for administration to manage. There's some work there involved in supporting those committees, and that alone was taking up, large amounts of time. And, these things just develop over the years. So it's not like anybody created this intentionally. It just, you have an idea and you create a committee of council, and away it goes. And maybe these committees had good purpose and do have good purpose for shorter periods of time, but maybe they don't need to be there forever and ever, right? Maybe it needs to be more like a task force that meets for a shorter period of time. So that was basically the idea. And the other thing I was hearing from members of council themselves was the idea that they weren't able to get to all these committees. Because again, so many committees, and some of them doing some great work. So how can I as a councillor be more involved and know what's going on? Dave sat on the Tourism and Economic Development Committee. Mention that again for you, Dave.
Thanks. Almost 8 years.
Great committee.
Yay.
But, I have councillors coming to me and saying, hey, I don't sit on that committee, and I don't know what's going on in that area. So what we did is we took some of these committees, not all of them, but some of them, and we've brought them together into this new Committee of the Whole. So Committee of the Whole is not a new concept. It's used across Ontario in different municipalities. And the idea is that council comes together as a committee and they take on some of these tasks. So they've taken on what was the Tourism and Economic Development Committee, Parks and Rec Committee, Planning Advisory Committee, and now they can come together and look at those topics and other topics, and they can all be part of the conversation. So that was basically the idea. These are public meetings. Residents are certainly welcome to come and be a part of a Committee of the Whole meeting. It's public in the same way a council meeting is. And it also allows us as staff to have one more, sort of meeting with all of the members of council who form that Committee of the Whole to run ideas by them and maybe get feedback from them in a more informal way than we would in a council meeting.
So are there any votes that take place at that meeting?
So there are. The committee can pass motions and vote on things just like any other committee can, but the committee has no authority, right? So they have no power to make decisions, and they can only make recommendations to council. So even though it's the same group of people, you will probably see less voting going on there because they don't have the power to make any decisions. But if they do, it really is just to refer something to council at a later time.
So it's kind of contentious in a way because, hey, this is what we want to do, so let's recommend it to ourselves, and we'll pass it next week.
What it does is it allows council to have a week to think about something. So that's another way to think of it. Imagine a scenario where you got a controversial, apartment building being built. I'm just talking hypothetically.
Right.
Yeah,
Good example.
A controversial apartment building being built, and
condos,
and it's a major decision for the town, right?
Sure.
Or another example might be, what to do with the Grovedale. Maybe somebody comes forward and says, "Hey, we should sell the Grovedale." Well, those are big decisions, and you bring that to a council meeting, and you get a vote, and the decision's done. So asking council to make those kinds of big decisions the same night that they, might have just learned about the problem the report to council comes forward to them 2 or 3 days before. They haven't had a lot of time to think about it. They haven't had any time to debate it. They go to a council meeting, they debate it, and then at the end of the debate, the question is called and they have to make a final decision. So the nice thing about Committee of the Whole is it allows staff to what I'll try to do is take those very controversial things, we'll bring them to the Committee of the Whole, allow the public to come to the Committee of the Whole and debate the thing with council. We can devote the whole meeting just to one topic if we want at a Committee of the Whole, which we would never be allowed to do as well at a council just because we don't have enough time, right? So usually council meetings, you got 15 things on the agenda and one happens to be an extremely controversial big item. that's a lot to decide, and you don't have enough time in the meeting to devote. We put an hour into something in a council meeting, and we're all looking at our watches because we know there's 10 other items on the agenda. We got to get to them. So at committee of the whole, we could take that one controversial item, put it on that committee of the whole, let council debate it, let the public come and speak about it, devote the whole night to it, and then a week or two later, council will actually vote on it at a council meeting.
So the COVID funding was kind of what prompted the discussion, but really where I see there being some concern is that planning advisory committee and that kind of issue that you just laid out, where you have a contentious development coming forward, because according to the Municipal Act, under procedures and definitions, if a committee or a board is made up of 50% or more councillors, then it falls under the same definition of a meeting as a council meeting does. So couldn't a lawyer then argue that council has already made a decision on whether or not that can go forward when that's brought up at committee of the whole?
So I don't think that's what the Municipal Act says. I think it says that if you have 50% or more councillors on a committee, that we have to follow the rules of an open and closed meeting. So we have to be careful to make that a transparent public meeting.
Right.
But the decisions of that committee are not binding on the future council. So what we're trying to do is get to allowing, as I kind of said there, like that sober second thought, right? So let council go away and think about it, right? Some more. There might be more input they receive from members of the public as it gets generated in the media. And I think ultimately what this is going to do is produce better results.
So and I'll pass this over so you can take a look. So the section is section 238, which is procedural bylaws. And in the section, it says the committee, quote, means any advisory or other committee, subcommittee, or similar entity of which at least 50% of the members also members of one or more councils or local boards. So that's a committee, what they would deem an official committee under the procedural bylaw. So a meeting of one of these means any regular, special, or other meeting of a council or a local board or a committee of either of them where a quorum of members is present and members discuss or otherwise deal with any matter in a way that materially advances the business or decision-making of the council, local board, or committee. So if they're making a decision on recommending a site plan move forward to council, could you not argue that that's materially advancing that business?
Yeah, I think we can take it offline if it's okay, and I'm happy to kind of walk that through.
No, absolutely.
But I don't think it means that they can't.
To be clear, I'm not trying to catch you.
No.
I'm worried that this could happen.
Yeah.
That's where,
as you've seen
I
with all
get
the
concerned.
contentiousness about development, it's like, whoa,
Right.
Are we opening ourselves up to more?
And we know Sebastian Schmorantz listens to the podcast.
No, I'm pretty confident on this one. We're
Okay.
good, and what we're doing is, again, what we couldn't do. See what that section is really saying is that if you have less than 50%, you don't have to have an open, transparent meeting. So we can actually create committees of just one or two members with members of the public, and they might be talking about controversial things. Like a good example might be the Ted C committee, which actually held most of its meetings in transparently, and those were open public meetings.
Yeah.
But if you're actually talking about a business, maybe wanting to move to Kingsville, and they're having confidential discussions of that business, the business isn't going to want to share the information with the committee.
Right.
So you might have in that case, confidential discussions. But what that section is saying is that if you have a majority of councillors, you can't do that. You have to follow those open closed rules very carefully. And I think that's a separate issue than what we're doing with the committee of the whole, because the committee of the whole, we are doing it. We're following the exact same rules as a council meeting in terms of that process. So they're open meetings. As I said, the whole purpose is to allow all the councillors to be in the room now. Think before, when we had the planning advisory committee, you'd have some great feedback come from members of the public. They'd come, they'd prepare, they would give their point of view, and we only had 2 councillors in the room. Do we have 2 councillors? I'm just guessing right now. I think it was 2. Maybe there was 3. But we didn't have, the point is we didn't have all of council hearing it, right? So then and that's a big disadvantage, right? Because, yes, when they came back to council 2 weeks later, those people could come and speak again. But what if they couldn't make it? Or what if, there was just a different different words were said in it, and it struck them differently. So this way, all of council can be in the room when we have that sort of planning advisory committee. They all get to hear it. They get to be part of the discussion. They get to ask their questions. I think, and they're, to be honest, they're the ones that I want to hear all of that, because they're the only ones that get a vote, right? As important as the rest of us are, or think we are in all of this, right? None of us get a vote to make a decision. So they've been elected and been given that task, to be the ones who are making these decisions. So they need to hear and know all the information. So I think this committee of the whole model is worth at least trying. And hey, if in a year from now it's not working, we can undo it and go back to the old way.
Now, I did notice that none of the committee of the whole meetings have had their minutes posted, but eventually those minutes will get posted just like they do for regular council.
So I thought they had been.
I believe the first meeting.
The first one has? Because I noticed the last two haven't. Those were the ones that I checked.
The first one.
Yeah, for sure.
It was,
for sure. They have to be posted the same way we're doing with the council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. My concern with the committee of the whole being on the economic development committee was that if certain things were outside of the scope of whatever the committee was aware of, they wouldn't be fully informed. So with some of the recent municipal hires that you've made, you're adding some of those resources that are feeding into the inputs of the committee of the whole, so that we're not missing some of those issues that, hey, not everyone was aware of economic development policy or opportunity. So, these are the things that you're experiencing, you're seeing that, hey, your staff is now feeding them with that information.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And I would add that there's still value though in getting that engagement from the public as well, right? So from people like yourself. So whether it's an economic development matter, what I hope to do is, let's say we want to talk about tourism. Let's get together all the tourism sector. Maybe not as a committee that's going to last forever and ever, because the other problem is some of the best people sometimes aren't able to commit long-term to a committee of council for 4-year term. People just won't sign up. But you can often get people to say, yeah, I'll attend 2 or 3 meetings, and, on this kind of short-term duration, call it a task force, to help council and administration get that needed feedback.
We did a whole bunch of mayor's roundtables to develop some strat plans.
Yeah,
so there's a whole bunch of participation because everybody's passionate here.
Well, the mayor and I have had all of these conversations, and he and I recently were talking about, if we want to bring forward that kind of a task force idea, which is the next one we should focus on? What is the priority? Should we be focusing on economic development? Should we be focusing on homelessness? Should we be focusing on, affordable housing? Should we be focusing on, I don't know, so those are all big topics.
Parade planning. We should focus on parade planning. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Guess who's your MCs for the 2021 Kingsville Santa Claus Parade? It's us! It's us!
So this means then, and John's here, so you can back us up on this. We are the official voice of Kingsville?
You are the official voice of Kingsville.
Oh.
I thought so. And I think also the official voice of Santa. We'll have to check.
I mean, not Santa. No, it's Santa.
Pretty exciting. So I'm hanging out with the MCs of the 2021 Santa Claus
There's no special clause in the Santa contract, is there?
Oh. Yeah, so we were approached. We were approached by the town because apparently our velvety smooth voice is just a
They just want to listen to Steve's dad jokes.
So how is this going to work? Are you going to have
We're going to yell really loud.
You're going to yell? Are you going to have megaphones or?
Yeah, no, we're going to stand at the.
John, we're up here.
Yeah.
Look, it's a fire truck.
No, they'll
and
never.
the ladder is up, and there's lights.
They'll never hear you over the fire truck.
Yeah, I have one megaphone. We just need to share it. That's fine.
Well, luckily, I actually have some parade emceeing experience, so I'm very excited to be able to apply my trade. Yeah.
No, we were approached by the communications manager of Kingsville, Tara Hewitt, and she said, "Hey, would you guys be interested? And would Gary from Quantum Sound Productions, does he have the ability to help facilitate some of this?" So we said, yeah, absolutely. I would love to sit on a balcony in November and freeze and talk about cars.
At least it's been nice.
It is, I know. Watch the 20th. It'll be a
sideways rain.
This is great. Oh,
people will
that's
come.
awesome.
But yeah, with the controversy, we dedicated a whole episode to the Kingsville Santa Claus parade, and we had the mayor on. It was actually
I
our last
listened to it.
episode.
I listened to it.
Because this is such.
Well, we've had him for 2 now that he's listened. He's admitted to.
Oh,
This is good.
it's a secret. You want an autograph later? I can get you.
Because I thought maybe he stopped after the draft one.
Yeah.
We got him for the Santa one.
No, the Santa one was great.
Yeah.
It was entertaining.
Well, everyone kind of banded together around and rallied around the whole issue of having the Santa Claus parade. When we were asked, it's like, absolutely, let's be a part.
You had my boss on as the guest, so
You know,
So I'm going to listen to it.
he pops on all the time. It's just like, actually, he's in the corner right now, just
Listening,
waiting.
is
We're
he?
just waiting
Yeah.
to get in. So
He just waits for the call.
yeah, it's like,
Is it my turn?
hey, Mayor Santos, can you do yet another one? He's like, oh, do I have to? So that's November
way.
20th. It starts at 6:00. Kingsville downtown. It's the same parade route that's been the traditional Kingsville parade route.
Starts at Jasperson.
Down Main, down.
Is it starting at Jasperson?
Yeah,
Yeah, it usually does.
No, usually they form from Spruce to Jasperson, and the parade actually commences.
Oh, correct.
At Spruce.
Correct.
and
That's
Okay.
Oh, I'm
correct.
just right.
I
If
was
you wanna
excited
see-
because I'm gonna have a great view of it with my trimmed tree on the corner. I'll be able to see all the floats go by, and then I'll
you're not.
head down.
No, because you'll be on a balcony.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I forgot. I'll be on the balcony.
So, I'm pretty excited because this will be my first Santa Claus parade, except for last year's, reverse.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so I never got to see the whole thing.
You get to hear Kevin and just all his prowess. Just enjoy his last night Kingsville Santa Claus parade.
I won't even start. I
you
promised
won't.
I
You
wouldn't.
can't. You
No, I
can't.
can't. We
No.
did a whole episode of me complaining about night parades.
Yeah, no, you can't complain.
Honestly, though, can we that should be the
No,
next
stop
task
it.
for us.
Enough.
That's the next
Cut
task. For us.
his mic.
It's
we did that.
night parades.
We did a whole episode. You don't know how many people came up to him and was like, Kevin is so angry. It's like, yes.
Can we get more rants from Kevin?
Kevin, yeah, we're like we enjoyed listening.
No,
That's
No.
that's literally the only thing I'm not angry about.
So aside from that, hey, end of the year, January 2022. Let's hope that the province's reopening plan orchestrates, and then we get to have the Highland Games and Migration Fest and the Kingsville Folk Fest
And a provincial and municipal election.
and a provincial. Which
It's
by
gonna
the
be
way,
so much fun next year.
all that debate. Oh,
Candidates night, boys.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Can't wait to emerge as my host of Candidates Night.
I'm just glad I don't have to
2022.
take part in it this time.
Oh, Kev, that was how we met. That was fun.
I gotta book
Kevin-
I gotta
Kevin
try
ran
and book
for
the
council.
I
Grovedale.
ran for council unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
And it was for the best.
Actually, if they can get the Grovedale soundproof by October, I can see about booking it for the
You know what?
candidates night.
Well,
Let's-
unless the office staff is working there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. Might have to go back to the pavilion. Our
Possibly.
old,
But
familiar stomping ground.
so new year, new opportunities, reemergence is on the horizon. Anything for 22 that you would like to discuss today that, hey, maybe we aren't quite aware of that's in the works? Or are we just going to keep that a secret until we find out whether or not,
Yeah.
we're allowed to do some things? Because
Yeah, we're not that sophisticated to be crystal balling yet, but we got the budget obviously coming
Yep.
up in January.
Yep.
That's going to be exciting, and we're just really ending a great year. Looking forward to 2022. As you say, I think council has still got their eye on the ball in terms of we're trying to accomplish its goals and help council go forward. So I don't think anyone is too focused on that election yet, except maybe our new municipal clerk. She's quite focused on it because she's got the task of gearing up and preparing for it. Council's going to be hearing a report in the next couple of weeks and make a decision about how that election will happen. I think last time they did mail-in ballots, so they'll have to decide whether we're doing mail-in ballots or traditional polls.
that's a whole nother
Let's
episode.
stay away from that.
That's a
Okay.
whole nother episode.
Okay.
Is
that's
that
another
is that
episode.
report going to include anything about campaigning on town property or?
Well, we're talking about 2022 right
Okay.
now, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
Right.
So 2022, we're gonna, we're looking ahead, and yes, we, as you say, a provincial and then municipal election, which will be
Town owns the
obviously
Carnegie,
exciting,
right?
so.
Town owns the
Town
Carnegie.
owns the Carnegie.
Town owns
Just wondering.
Yeah.
fine.
Wonderful. Wonderful to have you, John.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for coming in. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening. Your staff seem to be on the right direction, again, with all the new events that we've had. Great town participation. Everyone this year that I spoke to loved open streets. Firefest went well. All the other events that have been held so far. Great to see that through COVID, we are still in the sense that we want to celebrate the town of Kingsville. So happy to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
And next time we'll get to that list of things we've gotten wrong. Don't just keep them. Just keep running the tally, and then next time you're in, we'll start at the top.
It's incredibly busy. I've got here a sheet that Tara helped provide to me. Can I just tell you some of the stats we've hit for the year? Look at planning applications this year, $70 million in construction value and site plans. $515 million in new residential housing went up this year. That's pretty cool. Building permits. Where's building here? Building inspections, 3,070. Do the math on that. That's a lot of inspections every single day, right? 3,070.
It's almost
building inspections.
That's over 10 a day.
No,
And,
I was just
You're shocked about the 515?
no, I'm not. I was just going to say because John mentioned the enforcement earlier, and I was going to chime in then, but like those guys are really girls,
Team.
By law
really working.
by law enforcement. Total cases investigated in 2020 was 308, and total in 2021, 300 so far.
Hey,
So
Wow.
still time.
we're doing a lot of good work. City Works, you know how when you call in and you got a pothole, you want something fixed or whatever, 1,512 tickets have been closed so far this year.
Fantastic.
I think 512 of those were mine.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
But except for the one about your tree.
No,
they closed
510
it.
of the 512 are about the tree.
The other interesting statistics is the amount of money that council committed to capital projects. We saw a lot of great capital projects this year. That was really council, saying, hey, we want to invest in infrastructure. So roads infrastructure this year, over $15 million. Water infrastructure, over $3 million. Wastewater, $2.7 million. Parks and Rec, $1.8 million. So, those are significant dollars being invested by the taxpayers into,
The town.
the town. So that's good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
There it is, guys. Now, you just got to stop wearing these Detroit Red Wings jerseys.
You're not from here.
See, I knew he was a Leaf fan. I've seen a
not.
couple of his posts on Twitter, and I thought, well, the Wings are playing. Kevin's here, John. So I'm going to dress up a little bit.
I was going to wear my St. Pat's hat. I should have.
You guys.
Makes me angry.
I tell you. Well, see, but that's more of the benefit that you have a little bit closer now that the border can be open once we get rid of this PCR test stuff.
The fire chief is a Red Wings fan, and he keeps reminding me of it. So,
Red.
yeah, I kind of. That's great.
The one thing, have you been to a game in Detroit?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so
Yes.
have you been to a Leafs
Yes, I
Wings?
have.
So you've noticed it turns real blue anytime the
Oh,
Leafs
Okay,
are in town.
that was. Thank you for
Interesting.
joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
But-
Isn't that a beautiful new stadium?
Fantastic at Little Caesars Arena. I like.
Yeah, I love it.
A lot of legacy with the Joe and whatnot, and sad to see those troughs go in the men's bathrooms. Oh my gosh, I've never. Ugh. Scarred as a
You
child.
should have seen the. You probably saw the press box inside where the city of Detroit forgot to build a press box, so they just took 3 rows of seats
Yes,
out.
they did.
I know.
Yes, they did.
And then so you had to climb all the way up, all the stairs, and then when you had to get down to ice level to go do your interviews, you had to book it out of there 5 minutes before the period was over, so you could make it down in time to get into the to beat the crowd to get into the dressing rooms. It was, and they only had popcorn, at least at the ACC or Scotiabank, you got Haagen-Dazs.
Oh geez, oh darn, Mr. Big Stuff, and he told you.
I'm in radio.
He told his Iserman story. Yeah. But have you been to a Lions game and watched that misery
Once.
at Ford Field?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Lions fan. I follow them.
See, we can be friends after.
So we can be friends if we're Lions fans. Michigan State?
Go blue.
No. I'm a Michigan State
So you're
fan.
gonna-
Actually, no, I don't.
I don't follow college
And
because
then-
there's
I'm
follow
happy if
it,
they're.
but I
I'm
don't
happy if
care.
they're both doing well. I don't really have a vested interest in one over the other. So
Well, that's
I'm
too
happy
bad.
to see Michigan State doing well. Hopefully, they beat Ohio State this weekend.
Yes, they need to.
Yeah, and then there's another sport that happens. I don't know. When's the last time baseball showed up in Detroit?
Oh, let's see. Come on. No, hey. What were they, like 6 games below 500 by the end of the season?
Yeah, but
But nobody.
No,
did.
That
but
core
nobody
is
gave them a
pretty-
chance. No,
nobody did.
everyone thought they were going to be worse than the 03 Tigers, especially the way they started.
12 wins or whatever.
And now they're like they want Justin Verlander back. They want Carlos Correa. They want to make a 39-year-old
the carcass of
Verlander.
Verlander.
39. He wants
to
to pitch till he's 45.
Yeah, well, didn't he just have his second arm
I
surgery?
don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're Tom Brady now.
There's also the Pistons.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So no,
I don't think anyone cares about them,
They're
but
done in 2004, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. They just stopped playing basketball. That was the last championship in Detroit. They haven't had a good team since. So yeah, these are some of the other things, the other benefits that now you're going to get living in Kingsville.
Love it.
It's the whole big city proximity that you get all the global high life.
Well, he's from Chatham.
Well, yeah, that's a long way away.
It's probably just as
No,
close
it's-
down the 401.
But it's in the middle of Kent County.
And
Everybody
I went to a
forgets about that.
Spitfires game on the weekend.
I was just going to say, there's
yeah.
the Spitfires too.
Yeah.
So.
WFCU.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I
And
forgot
the
about
Express
that.
are starting up. If you want
Are they?
basketball, I
Yeah.
believe so.
The
Yeah,
Express was that
I thought
basketball?
the Windsor basketball.
I thought they
team.
were done.
Never
No,
heard
I
of
don't
them.
think so.
Hey, are the Kings gone? We're like getting
I
way
believe-
off track.
No,
but-
I believe. Well, their contract was up, and then COVID hit, and
It just didn't renew yet.
yeah.
so
Interesting. But, like I said, we're getting reemergence. We're getting to re-experience all the good things, right? Excitement. Like, I know I'm excited. I'm probably going to go to the U.S. in the next few weeks, especially because, I've got business over there and I've got family over there. So, things, finally, we started this podcast in COVID, and now we're starting to emerge. Now things are going to happen. Things are going to talk. And especially since Kingsville was one of the only municipalities in the county this past summer that did social events in public, we already got a head start on everybody else. So, thanks to your staff for making sure that those events did go through well and were well received. I'm hoping that the feedback loop helps years future, better and better events, more improvements, more things, more programming with what it is that people want to come to Kingsville for.
Well, I am just thrilled to be here in Kingsville. It's a fantastic town. Let me tell you, I think when I talk to CAOs from other communities, they all wish they were in Canada's southernmost town. I got to golf last weekend.
He's been around Nelson
Hey.
a lot, hasn't he?
Listen, I got the golf last weekend.
Did
That's
you?
pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I mean, who gets to do that in November, right? Only the
Floridians.
Well, okay.
Yeah. But not us, no.
Not like people from northern. Yeah.
But I mean,
right?
it's like
You go to Tilbury and it's winter.
But I appreciate your kind words about the town. It really is. I think you got a great mayor and council. That's one of the reasons I came here, because they're cohesive. You look at some of the problems happening in some of the communities, frankly, in neighboring towns.
Kingsville.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky here. We got stability from a mayor and council and I think they've set out good priorities. And now we're hiring and trying to keep some great staff. And I think it just bodes great for the coming years.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, again, thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much for taking the time out of your night and joining us on That Kingsville Podcast.
thank you.
All right. I'd like to thank Gary Glass of Quantum Sound Productions for producing this podcast. If you need multicam live event, commercial video, audio production, visit their website at quantumsoundproductions.ca for more info. This week we leave you with the song World Gone Crazy, performed by Fresh Breath. Local couple Josh and Katie Pasco are the alt-country husband and wife duo Fresh Breath, creating soulful songs that bend rock, blues, country, and pop. In 2020, the pair quit their day jobs and became full-time artists. You can check out all their music and find more on their website at freshbreathband.com.
Right now I'm losing my mind, not making a dime, and the world's gone crazy. And I know all in due time it'll be fine. Still, it's all so sad. So in my living room, I'm spending my time not being lazy and News drops like tears from the sky. What's the truth, the lie? You know it makes me so mad. Look out and see beyond. Mother Earth, she cries for us lately. There's more to life than this for you and I. We can't afford to take it no more. Let's tame the roar and be anti-racist. Shut the door to injustice and poor. We need help, not a war when it's all gone. So